Hi, everyone. I'm Lauren Conlin with Pop Crime TV's The Outlier podcast. And today I am going to introduce you to Ryan Hemphill. The media is dubbing him the sadistic sugar daddy. And look, there hasn't been too much media coverage around this case. He is currently going through some pretrial hearings. He's actually due back in Manhattan criminal court tomorrow, and that is July 29th. But I want to tell you about Ryan Hemphill because this is very disturbing. And as you can see, if you are with me on YouTube and you're watching this, Ryan Hemphill, I mean, he looks pretty good. He's a pretty handsome guy. He's an attorney. He's a founding partner at, quote, Madison Park Capital Advisors. He's kind of got that whole maybe that Patrick Bateman thing going on. But let me go back to the very beginning, and I'm going to read to you the information that I received from DCPI, and that's the NYPD press department. This is what they told me. Quote, there is a complaint report on file for unlawful imprisonment for an incident that occurred on February 28th, 2025 inside of 18 East 33rd Street in the confines of the Midtown South precinct. Two complainants, a 20-year-old female and a 23-year-old female, were inside of the location when they had a verbal dispute with a 43-year-old male. The suspect displayed a firearm and threatened the complainants. Complainant 1 fled the apartment and called 911. Complainant 2 attempted to leave, but was not allowed to leave by the suspect. Upon arrival of police to the scene, the suspect was taken into custody. A search warrant was issued for the location where a large quantity of controlled substances, crack, heroin, meth, and weed, high-capacity magazines, ammunition, and multiple switchblade and daggers were recovered. Now, the following individual was arrested and charged on March 1st, 2025. Hemphill Ryan, a 43-year-old male, 18 East 33rd Street, and that's by the Empire State Building, New York, New York. Charges: unlawful imprisonment, menacing, criminal possession of a weapon, criminal possession of a controlled substance with intent to sell, criminal possession of a controlled substance, and unlawful possession of an ammo feed device. Now that is just the tip of the iceberg. This is just the initial arrest. Ryan Hemphill was indicted on 116 different counts of rape, you know what I'm trying to say, torture, kidnapping, aka unlawful imprisonment. So let me read to you a little blurb that I put together over the weekend before I get into one of the more recent transcripts that really gives you, again, an idea of what this man was allegedly doing and what his defense team is actually saying his quote-unquote defense should be at this time. And again, ladies, if you are single and you are dating and you are using different apps, etc., I'm making this video also to make you aware that sometimes creeps and very dangerous men, they look like this. And I just don't think that we discuss this enough. So let's get into just a little blurb that I put together. So again, this is Ryan Hemphill, and he is charged with 116 different counts of predatory SA and torture, bribing a witness, and other related offense. The allegations, they detail a pattern of extreme sexual violence and psychological torture against at least 6 women, with evidence suggesting many more victims. And the DA has come out and said, you know, if you have any information, please come forward. So Hemphill is a former attorney who apparently lost his company, and he allegedly lured women through websites. And he used also some salacious type of websites like fetlife.com, which is for special fetishes, seeking.com, and Craigslist. So he offered money for sex, companionship, and he did this while concealing his intent to allegedly inflict severe abuse. So his methods included torturing victims with cattle prods and shot collars, threatening them with weapons, urinating on them, and reenacting their past sexual traumas after gaining their trust. So he would talk to them and ask them about horrible traumatic events that happened to them sexually, and they would tell him, and then he would later do that to them, allegedly. Prosecutors alleged that he recorded these acts, keeping the videos as trophies with forensic evidence from his devices, revealing literally dozens or hundreds of possible victims that, again, they are now looking for. He also would tell them he had all these connections to police and organized crime, manipulating them into signing contracts or actually recording them to say, oh, I give my consent for him to do X, Y, Z to me. So he would bribe them basically and say, well, you're going to record a consent video, or, I'm going to go to the authorities and tell them that you are allegedly a prostitute. Also, and this is so ridiculous, he would actually, and I'll show you a picture of this in a second, but he actually allegedly would pay these victims using counterfeit money as well. So he's been incarcerated since March 1st, 2025. And of course, he faces remand due to the severity of these charges and his attempts to intimidate witnesses. And he's been in New York, living here for over 20 years. And he's got a documented history of substance abuse. And that's what his attorney is saying. His attorney is saying, oh, Rikers is really not the place for him. He belongs in some kind of facility so he can treat his substance abuse. And I want to just also point out that he was previously acquitted in 2015 of choking and holding a knife to his ex-girlfriend's throat because he testified that he enjoyed strangling her during sex. So yeah, he was acquitted of that in 2015. So yes, that is my little blurb about him. And again, he has another hearing in Manhattan Criminal Court tomorrow. I'm not going to be attending that hearing. As of right now, it's most likely about bail. And I am not currently in the city, but I will be attending all of his other hearings. However, I will get the transcript to that hearing. And I'm going to go over the transcript to the April hearing as well, because again, this is really serious. These charges are so serious. And I am horrified at the fact that he's been most likely allegedly doing this for the last 10 years, maybe longer. So let me just show you very quickly what the DA's office shared on their website about him. So this is what they recover. This is the counterfeit money. Those are cattle prods. These are text messages. He's threatening them. He said, I'm going to leave here in 5 minutes. And if you're not here, I'm going to unleash federal hell on you. You're going to wish you were effing dead. You prostitute. Did you not notice the business cards on my desk? He's talking about police. I know half the precinct, you F. It's horrible. And that's the counterfeit fake cash. Yeah, the cattle prod. Absolutely horrific. And what's also interesting is he, acts like he's this big high-powered lawyer, this high-powered businessman. So he allegedly lost his company and he's broke. And he's using legal aid as his attorney. And this actually came up in the transcript during the last hearing. The judge was a little confused, like, is he eligible to be using legal aid? And even the lawyer was like, so we're trying to figure that out right now. His mother apparently was in court, and it sounds like his family is very well connected. They have money. So we'll see if he gets a different defense attorney anytime soon. I have a feeling he will if his family has anything to do with it. But, as of right now, we're not sure. Perhaps tomorrow somebody else will show up. I did call the legal aid office last week. I'll probably call back again. I left a message. Nobody called me back. Shocker. But you know what? Let's go to the transcript, because I think it's really important that everybody hear word for word what prosecutors are alleging. And when I attended the crypto hearing, if you're following some of my coverage of these New York City criminal cases, the defense really had a lot to say about the crypto alleged kidnappers, how it was a misunderstanding, all that stuff. Well, legal aid has been pretty quiet, I would say, when it comes to Ryan Hemphill. I would say the most they've said about this is that he battles substance abuse problems because look, I mean, at this point, that's all you can really say in my opinion here. But let me get this transcript from my desktop. Here it is. It'll just take 1 second to pull up. All right, there we go. I'm going to pull it up on my end too. And what I'm going to do is, I'm going to fast forward here. Okay. This is so bad. Okay, here we go. Let me just get to what page I'm on for you guys. And just be aware that I sometimes don't use the totally correct phrasing just for YouTube. And this is very, very triggering. So trigger warning right here, guys, especially if you have any type of history with assault, sexual assault, domestic violence. I do want to issue a trigger warning. Okay, this is the prosecutor. Quote, the defendant is charged on this 116 count indictment with the rape and torture of 6 women over a 5-month period. The indictment charges 24 counts of predatory SA. Each of the 6 victims endured a multi-hour ordeal of grotesque physical and sexual violence inside the defendant's apartment. The defendant raped his victims orally, anally, vaginally, often under the threat of torture if they did not comply. He forced or tricked them into ingesting various controlled substances that rendered them unconscious or significantly impaired. He slapped and punched them repeatedly, tied them up with handcuffs and other restraints. One of the victims was left shackled to the defendant's bed for an extended period while she begged him to let her go. He tortured his victims with electricity, using a cattle prod meant for livestock, which was recovered from his apartment after his arrest, and a shock collar that he forced some women to wear around their necks, including while he raped them. He also tortured them psychologically, threatening them with guns and knives, urinating on them, and verbally humiliating them and demeaning them. He got them to confide in him about the details of their past sexual traumas and then deliberately reenacted them. We have every reason to believe these 6 victims are only the tip of the iceberg. The defendant's apartment was full of cameras, which he used to record himself demeaning and torturing his victims, and then kept the videos as trophies. Forensic extractions of the cell phones, laptops, hard drives, and memory cards recovered from the apartment contain videos depicting the defendant sexually torturing dozens, if not hundreds more women. In the videos, the women are often naked, bound, and blindfolded. Many of them are wearing the same shock collar the defendant used to torture several of his victims in this indictment. Gosh, sorry, I didn't mean to gasp. I guess I skipped over this part when I initially read, so I got surprised. But some of the videos depict the defendant waterboarding several different women while they are bound and blindfolded, sometimes with duct tape wrapped around their heads and faces. The People's investigation has also revealed that the defendant found many of his victims by targeting women on websites such as Seeking.com, formerly known as Seeking Arrangements, Sugar Daddy Meet, FetLife, and Craigslist, offering large sums of money in exchange for sex and companionship, and the defendant lured the women to his apartment located at 18 East 33rd Street near the Empire State Building. He told them he was interested in role play and light dominance, but concealed the true extent of the sexual torture he intended to inflict. So for some of his victims, he took advantage of their inexperience, and for others who articulated clear boundaries, he gleefully and intentionally crossed those boundaries, seeking to inflict as much pain and fear as possible. In many cases, he never even paid them the agreed upon amounts after everything he did to them. Sometimes he even paid them in fake money. After raping and torturing these women, the defendant used numerous strategies to intimidate his victims into silence. In the hundreds of text messages extracted from his device or devices, the defendant threatened to shoot them or have them silenced or disappeared. He claimed to have connections to the police and to organized crime and vast resources that would make him untouchable. He told them that he was an attorney, which happened to be accurate, and he claimed that he could use his knowledge of the law to protect himself and get his victims arrested instead. In one instance, based on evidence retrieved from the defendant's cell phone, he drew up an actual contract in which he agreed to pay a woman $2,000 in exchange for dropping a complaint she had filed with the Manhattan Special Victims Unit. The current indictment charges him with bribing a witness for that conduct. He also forced some victims to record videos in which they stated that they consented to being raped and tortured. And then he used the existence of those videos to assure the victims that they would never be believed should they choose to come forward. In every way possible, he impressed on his victims that going to the authorities would be futile and they would never hold him accountable. So the conduct in this indictment is truly shocking to the conscience. The defendant inflicted enormous suffering and trauma on these 6 women, raping them repeatedly and torturing them for hours simply because he enjoyed their pain and fear. And he threatened and intimidated them to make sure they never came forward. And then, she goes into saying that this defendant holds both law and business degrees and works in private equity. He has the funds to engage in numerous philanthropy projects over the years, and his family has significant real estate and other capital holdings, which Rikers calls show they have been discussing liquidating in order to pay his bail. And you know what, guys? I apologize. I do not know how much his bail is. That's insane. If I will find that out. I will get that information from the attorney for our next stream on this. And this is what I think is very confusing, is that his family has money. Allegedly, he had money, but maybe not, but he's using legal aid. So he has an enormous incentive to use those resources to flee now that he is facing the possibility of a life sentence on the predatory SA charges, 20 of which are eligible to run consecutively. And then the judge kind of says, you said the defendant has a law degree and a business degree and is involved in multiple financial ventures. Hold on, I'm making myself bigger now that I'm talking about this. So yeah, the judge is like, wait, what? Hold on, what? And the prosecutor says, yes, he has a law degree, a business degree, and the people believe that he works in private equity. So the judge is like, well, I guess that creates the obvious question of, is he eligible for your services? And the legal aid attorney says, well, right now I believe he is, but that's a question that we're trying to figure out. And then the judge says, do you want to be heard on bail? And she says, yes, I do, Your Honor. I'm asking bail to remain the same at this time. Sorry, guys, I don't know what that is. Mr. Hemphill has been incarcerated since March 1st, although his family does. Then she's interrupted. Let me see. And then she says, I don't believe there's enough funds for them to pay bail at this time. If there was, he wouldn't be incarcerated. So I'm asking you to keep everything the same. He's not a flight risk. We understand the seriousness of these charges, but he's been a New Yorker for 20 years. He's never left. He is an attorney who unfortunately lost his company, and he has substance abuse issues. And she believes, the attorney, if anything, rehabilitation might be better. And then she says, I don't believe that Rikers is the best place to address those issues. Talks about his family being there, blah, blah, blah. Okay, we get it. I'm taking this down. Hang on. And if you watch some of my streams, you may have heard me mention this before, but he is being held at Rikers, but he is in protective custody because nobody likes anybody who hurts women like this or rapists. So he was being held, last I checked from my source at Rikers, in the same type of area that Harvey Weinstein was held. And my source said that this guy, super polite, super just overly nice and just seemed like a true sociopath. Just because you see these charges, you see how horrific they are, and then you see that this guy is like, "Thank you so much." Oh, and uses please and thank you, may I, etc. Yeah, true sociopath, and you see how he was able to allegedly lure these women. So the fact that there are hundreds, or they believe thousands of tapes and victims and recordings of him doing this to women over the last decade, that's heartbreaking. And I feel like there's a lot of evidence that's going to come into discovery, and this is going to take a while. But I hope that this is a reminder to everybody, women and men, sure, that if you're dating, be careful. Anybody is capable of anything here. So that's pretty scary. And again, I will keep everybody updated on how this case is going. I will keep everybody updated on the hearing tomorrow and then when the next hearing is. And I can make a playlist on YouTube as well. So if you're interested in this case, please drop a message, drop a line so I know, so I can continue to cover it. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching, for listening. And don't forget to join me Tuesdays and Thursdays on my live stream at 9:30 a.m. right here on Pop Crime TV. I'm Lauren Conlin. Thanks for watching and thanks for listening.